It's okay. I'm so used to being on camera at this point. I try not to look, you know? Okay, so one of the things we didn't talk about actually when I was talking with you was what are sort of your wishes for the boys? What would you like to see them do better at or have be easier for them?
Well, I know one of the initial things that caught my attention with Handle very early on was it being talked about as a completely different approach to constipation. Like that was one of the first things that's like, wow, if there was a whole other way of addressing that might be helpful, that would be incredible. So that was one of my first kind of, if this could be helpful with that would be fantastic. And then, I mean, I don't know. I don't have any other really specific things so much as just overall health and well-being and ease in the world and in their bodies and capacity to learn and grow and, you know.
I'll give you some more specifics.
Yes, please.
Capacity for fine motor function and coordination. Better, I'll say specifically writing more easily with their hands would be great. Eventually being able to type. Their nervous systems being better able to self-regulate, particularly when things don't go the way that they expect, when they don't have their normal routines in place and there's a surprise, they can get really freak out and get very upset and not know how to stay calm in the presence of adversity. And so to be able to develop those capacities.
So like they have to have those skills.
Yeah, sure. So those would be
okay, great.
And I second all those. I'd like to order those as well, please.
For yourself as well as them, right? So as I explained to Michele, this is a screening. So this was sort of a touch-in. How does it work? Normally I don't work with people who are specifically on the spectrum with a screening because it's pretty clear from the get-go that they need a full program. The difference is that, we spent a very short period of time in here and I have this many activities I can give you because I have that much information, whereas the evaluation takes longer and I have this plus. So, and 6 months of follow-up at a minimum. So that's just sort of my disclaimer of
this is the hors d'oeuvre.
This is the hors d'oeuvre. And part of it was, we were talking about, part of it is buy-in. When Bodhi left the room, I stayed really quiet because he said, that lady is, and I was like, is really nice, okay.
He said, I want to come back here.
Yeah, both of them did, actually. When they were in here, they both indicated they'd like to get, and so, that's a big part of what the screening is to just see if there's a buy-in and a connection. And I did get some information. Yes. So you are going to get this folder. So let me take this stuff out of here. And we're going to talk about this first, so you can share that. So what this is it kind of goes over each of the neurodevelopmental systems or processing that we look at. And kind of look at four. One we don't really write on here. One is if it's a strength. Two, if column A is a system that we may want to enhance. B is a system that's interfering with daily functioning. And C is needs further information. Sometimes there's just C because I just don't know. Like with Bodhi, with olfaction, I just don't have any information on that. But with River, you indicated that there was some sensitivities.
Okay, I was curious if that came from me or
yes, that came from you. Because I combine what you sent to me, what I observe, and I noticed you were writing down some of the things that I was doing, and a lot of the tasks that I do are just really a context within which I'm watching a lot of other things. So, so sometimes it's just going to be C, but a lot of times it'll be A and C or B and C. So I'm just going to kind of walk through here, and I'll do do you want me to do it one boy at a time or both boys at the same time per system? Which is
Why
easier
don't we?
for you
I can
to?
go through one because then.
Is that easier
that's
for
One
you?
boy?
And the other.
One boy at a time?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So different people think differently. I'll
Yes.
do whatever we work. So we'll start with River. So this sense of olfaction, and when we do a
I think
full,
you need to go out there.
when we do, good thing you're recording this.
That's the idea.
Poor guy who just wants to be part of things. When we do the full evaluation, I'll show you all sorts of other paperwork that indicates, how we see all these systems and whatever. But just suffice it to say that we see them all interconnecting with one another. We don't see it linearly the way it's going to be laid out here. So you'll see I have a few arrows, and I have to stop myself because it's like, well, and as I'm writing, I'm like, well, this attaches to this, but then you wouldn't be able to read anything.
Right.
So the sense of olfaction is very primal. It changes the least from before birth to after birth. It's a wet, dark environment that we smell in before and after birth. So it becomes a very primal sort of smoke alarm to us all. When the other systems aren't giving us real clear information, then we can rely on our sense of smell to know if we're safe, if we're okay, if we're connected to ourselves, which I think is part of the smelling the poop and stuff. It's like neither, and again, here I'm going to talk in circles because I don't know how to do this linearly. I just don't. The sense of proprioception, and if I'm repeating or if I'm saying things you already know, I'm sorry. But the sense of proprioception is where we are in space, the sense of where we are in space. Not only is it our boundaries with other people, but it's our awareness of our own self, internally and externally, and where we stop and start. And oftentimes when that's not there very solidly, then things that come, one thing is we don't let anything come out of us, which can be the constipation. When it does, we need to, we felt that, but we need to make sure that we're still there, and how does that relate to us? And I think that's part of the smelling, because again, the smell is such a primal sense. It also connects directly in the brain to the limbic system or the emotional system. It doesn't pass through the same gateways as everything else does, which is why you can smell something that you smelled when you were 5 and be there, as opposed to thinking about it. You're just like, there's a certain rubber smell I can smell that relates to where my grandmother lived, and I'm like back in her apartment eating devil's food cookies and whatever. And she's been dead for years. So that's just kind of how our systems work. The sense of tactility is touch, and it's not just the skin on the outside of our body, but tactily sensitive people can actually feel internal movement as well. It's kind of like when you have a flu and you kind of feel your bones and muscles moving. It's imagine sort of being like that all the time, just being aware of that all the time. It's kind of it's significant when we think about it that way. And all I have are signs. I definitely need more information on this with both boys, but we'll start with River. He sits off the chair. He does not sit fully on the chair.
Right.
That area between the back of the bum and the knee is a very sensitive area. It's where all our chairs tend to hit. So we find places where, and when we lean this way, we plaster our body down a little bit harder there. It's the same thing as leaning back. This is a little bit safer, so I prefer it when kids do this than when they lean back on a chair. Because if they make the chair go back, it still will plaster their legs down, but then they can fall over backwards, which I had a kid do the other day. It just went toppling over right on that chair. The long sleeves protect from anything touching. Could be wind, rain, people. It just is an extra layer of protection. It may have nothing to do with it, but these are clues. So I look for patterns. Writing difficulties are significant. Now, River does hold his pencil with a 3-point hold. When we get to Bodhi, I'll talk about something different, but he does hold his pencil this way, but his muscle tone's so weak that writing the letters and whatever is difficult. So I just need way more information to find out how severe that tactile sensitivity is, but I think that it is a part of the sensitivity. Again, not to compare the boys, but they both did reach out their hands to touch me, but they didn't really touch me. I mean, they were just sort of there. Vestibular functions are in the inner ear, and they really support everything else beyond taste, touch, and smell. So when anything else is disorganized or weaker, I know that the vestibular system needs strengthening. Both boys in here were not needing to move a lot. They tended to hold very still, which is a way of blocking out stimuli from the outside world. It stops some of the communication to the brain about movement and what else I have to do and all the stimuli coming in if I'm very still. So a lot of movement or being still can be an indicator of a weakness in the vestibular system. Again, I need way more information, which I would get in a longer period of time with them. And they're easily overstimulated, which is another indicator that there's a sensitivity or disorganization in that system. Muscle tone is the degree of readiness to respond from a resting position. An extreme example would be if I have this pen sitting here, do I know that I just need that amount of muscle tone to pick it up and put it in my hand? Or am I hyper or hypo? Just sort of can't quite. And how much do I need to hold it? The ability to control sphincter muscles is partially muscle tone. Tracking is partially muscle tone. Writing again. The needing for control and having to be a certain way can relate to muscle tone. The drooping. Neither one of the boys really hold themselves erect. Some of the walking, mobility kinds of things that come and go. It's not consistent. It comes and goes. So which just says there's an irregularity there. Is that making sense at all? Proprioception, as I said, is where the body is in space. There's lots of leaning, propping. The difficulty with math is related to that. As the proprioception gets stronger, and with River as his kinesthesia, his ability to, the muscle memory, to then be able to write and remember how to write each of the letters or numbers. As you said, it wasn't that he didn't know the phone number, it was the being able to translate that to here. And that can be a combination of things. If you're really tactily sensitive, then you can have a really, really clear idea here, but getting it to here, it erases it because of the tactile sensitivity that's there. So that's an area that we can work on. Auditory sequential memory is definitely a strength. That was just like, that one they can do. But that's great, because a lot of the world is oral. So, as long as people don't talk too loud and they don't talk too much and they don't, if they hold within those parameters, then we're good. That's good to have a strength. Sound sensitivity, the startling to sudden noises, that again I could have an arrow down to the differentiation. I put it under both. Obviously that could be both of, whenever I clapped my hands, River was like this. River was very distracted by the people going in and out of the bathroom, whereas Bodhi wasn't really, he didn't really care as much. But River was definitely distracted. He didn't stop looking at what I was doing, but his energy just totally went over there. It was an interesting, I was glad I can read energy because it was like, okay, he's not here with me anymore, he's over there, even though he was totally looking at what we were doing. And then as soon as I told him what it was, he came back to me and was participating with me again. They know how to get you in there, don't they, Ocean? The tracking, you're not surprised. It was challenging. There were lots of skips and jumps and stops. And
was it you had two different?
I had two different things.
Were they Why would one be more challenging than the other?
Well, this is much smaller and much more associated with like reading words on a page. Faces often will move, and part of it has one kind of a look to it. The other part has, the eyes have a different kind of a look. So it's just a different kind of focusing. This was easier for both of them. This tired them both out. You heard me joking about it when I was doing it with them, I'm over here and I'm being tricky and, whatever. After you go back and forth a few times, they've just figured, oh, she's going to go back over here, so I'm over here and their eyes are over here. It's like, okay, I'll just wait for her. She'll get here. Obviously that's going to have a huge effect on all academics. But certainly, even in the world, just being able to follow what's going on in the world. And that's directly related, of course, to binocular functions, which is the two eyes working together. Convergence being close-up focusing, divergence being further back, the accommodation between the two, and then binocular rivalry being the dominance of the eyes or the focusing of the eyes, staying.
Was that the glasses?
Yeah, staying where it needed to be. And yours flipped around a little bit too. When I look at Bodhi's eyes, they don't both look at me straight on. River's pretty much do, as I recall, but Bodhi's his left eye is a little bit less focused. I don't know if you've had their eyes checked.
Just the basic stuff.
And it was all fine. Because I can't deal with acuity. I'm dealing with visual processing. As we strengthen convergence, they both kind of look at things in a wide range. So as I moved this thing back and forth, instead of going like this, you can see my eyes moving, they just went like this. So my eyes stay there, and I can still see it, but I'm not focusing on it. So I get sort of the wide view of things, but I'm not getting a detailed focus on what's going on. When your eyes aren't working together and giving you clear information, it's very easy to get cranky. It just is. And to me, it's remarkable because the way the brain works is the eyes tell the ears where to focus. And it's remarkable that they can repeat sounds so well when their eyes are working so poorly. But it shows up in the sensitivity to sound a lot. So the eyes tell the ears where to look unless we're in an emergency.
So how could you help us understand what you think their visual experience is?
Well, I knew more information about that, but I think they take in the big picture more than the small picture. That makes reading very hard to do. Also, the tracking, being able to follow, is needs strengthening. I think sometimes when they're focusing, particularly River, he's getting different information from both eyes, and the brain has to figure out how to work with that. But the brain isn't getting coordinated information. It's like half the wall was red, half the wall was blue. So they're both focusing. They're both seeing something, as opposed to one really focusing on detail and the other one taking in the peripheral information and then going in and coordinating that to get depth perception and all that.
What should somebody see when they look through those?
Well,
we should give them to Ocean.
There isn't a should, but the wall's white.
Right.
The wall is white, and when your eyes are working well together, you do see that grayish color that you're seeing. And then, like you said, then it sort of bled off into some red and some blue, and then it would go back to the white or the grayish color. So you had more of that.
Some kind of an eye test you did?
It was, here, we'll let you see. First, look through this.
Okay.
So easy, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's lovely when you know what you're looking at.
Yeah,
Put
yeah.
the back,
Don't worry
okay.
about it.
Okay, now put
There's
this.
like
You're
you.
good.
Okay.
You're good.
All right.
Just put that on just like that.
Okay.
And look at the wall and tell us what you see. What colors
That
are the
wall?
Yeah, make sure the glass is all the way on the glass, the plastic. There you go.
Okay. What do I see? I see
What color is the wall?
blue and red and
Is it blue and
sort
red?
of more blue there and red there.
Okay, does it ever come together? At the
Yeah,
end
it's
of
kind
the
of
color?
purple.
Okay. Does it ever go to white or gray or anything like that?
A little. It feels like it's kind of fading and it keeps sort of
Mhm.
shifting between a little more red and a little more blue,
Mhm.
but it's always sort of like
Okay.
light purple. I mean, well, yeah, light purple. A little
What
more
about
on
the
red
wall
side.
behind you? Does the same thing happen?
No, my brain's pretty. I mean, it's looking white,
Mm-hmm.
but like mauve, sort of. You know. I mean, is mauve like a lavendery white? Pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, it's kind of a reddish.
Oh,
Mauve
I
is
thought
kind of
it-
a reddish.
I thought it
More,
was more purple.
more reddish over there. Like that side's reddish and that side's bluish.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's neat.
Yeah.
How organized would you say Ocean is? You can take them off.
Well, immediately, since we were just talking, he hates to read.
I understand that. I understand that. Did
But
you
yeah.
see, by the way, that I did you read the newsletter?
Yeah,
Yes,
that
I
was
know,
sort
and I
of-
forwarded it
Yeah,
to him.
yeah.
So I don't know what that says about me. Was that what the boys saw also? Was that-
So your eyes are not really, they're not working fully coordinated together. Your eyes, the visual processing.
Uh-huh.
And when I have the full evaluation, I do a few more things with that. I
Uh-huh.
do some stuff with paper, and because sometimes it's different looking close, then the different walls are different distances, so they give you different information and as to how your brain can provide all that. So the thing about that is that you're getting all this chaotic information.
Okay.
And he wants to know about his eyes. You're getting all this kind of chaotic information. The brain has to make sense of it.
Right.
And sometimes that can cause irritability and moodiness, kind of like that shifting back and forth, or I'm in two places at once sort of thing. Or it can cause disorganization. So like if I put something down when I'm focusing with my right eye, and then I start focusing with my left eye, I don't know where it is, because now everything that was focused on with the right eye is in the background, it's in the peripheral. So then I can lose my keys really easily, and when if I wait a little while, it goes back to the right eye. Oh, there they are right in front of me. And I missed them.
Interesting.
And we all do a little bit of that. It's, I don't think most people don't have it quote unquote perfect, but the more significant that is, the more the body, the brain has to grapple with
Right.
making sense
Yeah.
of sort
It's
of
stressful.
disorganized information. And it's part of all these things being a little bit disorganized is part of why they go for control.
Right.
Because if I can have exactly what I know, what it's going to feel like, what it's going to look like, what it's going to sound like, what it's going to, if I know all the parameters, then I can know how to react or respond. But if I'm in a new situation and I can't bank on any of these systems to give me clear information, then I'm a little bit swimming out there in the deep end, and I don't know how to do that. I just can't rely on my systems to hold it up. You mentioned the bright sunlight bothering River, more than Bodhi, but River. The kinesthetic memory is just the muscle memory. And that was a mixed bag. He had difficulty fully keeping the pattern. He was able to do that, and he was able to transfer it over to the other hand. But then closing his eyes and being able to do it was really difficult. So it wasn't fully in the body that he was still telling himself what to do. You don't want to. Although there have been kids that I have had to say, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, so he, I think it was Bodhi who eventually just kind of did this sort of Passover. So, okay. I'll pass it off. She'll get it. She'll get it. She'll know I'm sort of involved. the differentiation is really, it relates to reflex integration as sort of the on-off switch we have to be able to stop and start. Moves into being able to make a transition, stop this, start that, which is challenging for them. Sleeping, waking, not having one part of the body move when the other part, like when I'm going like this, not having my tongue going that. Like that's an energy bleed. It can make life a lot more tiring. He's definitely right hand dominant. He also starts with his right leg, and his right eye is the one that's the main focusing. So he's all unilateral. Not that I care, but that's just information. And then the interhemispheric integration, the transitions can be difficult. He doesn't cross his midline, both of them with this little thing.
When they were doing the class.
Yeah, they were doing it. And then as I kept going, then they just moved their body, so they didn't have to cross the midline. I'm just like, okay, you want me this side? I'll go to this side, but I'm going to move my whole body so that I'm not actually going over here. And my claps were way over here, and the furthest either one of them got was sort of, a few inches. River does not move his arms, at least in any kind of walking, running, skipping, anything that he did in here. He held his arms very, very still. So he's not getting that organization that happens with that. Did he crawl? For a long time, little time?
Yeah, I mean a good 6 months.
Okay.
It started very late, but
yeah. So I'm going to give you an activity that sort of imitates crawling, because he needs more of that integration. They both do, for different reasons. They both do. And then on the back, I talk about attentional priorities. Those are the things they focus on. We all have attentional priorities. What do we focus on first to know that we're okay, and then we can learn or do something new or something else. Safety and protection are everybody's primary, and that takes a lot of their energy. It's just knowing they're okay.
And what was your read? I mean, how are you experiencing that in them?
That they need to be, the fact that their systems aren't all working for them, the fact that they lose it easily. New situations are very difficult. They stay pretty close to mom or dad. They want to know they're okay. They find their safety nets, and they keep going to those. And it takes longer for them to be able to, they somehow felt safe enough in here, but both of them started over with you, which is fine, and none of this is bad. Yeah. It's just information, right? They really, both of them, want a connection to family. They really, whether it be their brother or whether it be you guys, it's like you said, it's information. It's that connection. And River, I really felt like he wanted an acknowledgement of his abilities. Tell me I did it, good. It doesn't have to be right. There's subtleties in here, because I didn't have the sense, he never asked, was that right? He asked, Bodhi I think asked once, but it was more of, looking at you like, did I do good? Did I, am I okay? So it's that combination of, am I safe? And let me know that I did okay. The more I gave it to him, the less he needed to look to you. That's why I'm saying that so much of what I'm doing is much more subtle than just the activity. So, do I think a full handle program would be valuable? Yeah. But I can't. I'm going to give you. Actually, I'm going to go beyond this and give you one activity that's not even on this list, because I think they both need it. I'm giving you the same program for both kids because I think it's going to be easier for you at this point. I don't know if in the future that would always be the case. So let's talk about Bodhi a little bit.
Yeah.
With olfaction, nothing was reported at the time. I started to write something and I realized it was from River's sheet. So I erased it because I had everything all strewn out here. So there wasn't anything reported at this time, and I don't know if that's an issue. Tactility, his thumb is off the pencil, and this is a pretty sensitive spot of the body. So that's always an indicator to me that there may be a tactile sensitivity. It's also a reflex point for sinuses, so he could simply have stuffed sinuses. But it seemed like there was enough other things that it indicated. Although his writing is clearer, he labors at it. Again, he was off the chair. He
Oh, hi.
bathroom time.
Go wash.
Ah. So changing in tactility. They may be thinking they're going to go fast. So changing in tactility, that when he poops in his pants or whatever, he needs to check and know what's there and what's going on. But then cleaning himself, again, would change the tactility. And he's resistant to all of that. It's like, just give me something I can get on so I don't have to feel that. So although he's actually able to write better than River, I do think that there's a tactile sensitivity there that's also affecting the writing, being so laborious.
And when you say tactile sensitivity, you mean that there's some experience of pain or discomfort with too much sensation, or
ultimately that's what my daughter called it once she had an awareness of it, but I don't think that they would cognitively call it that. But there's a definite awareness, whereas things that you and I might not be aware of or might not process as significant.
you guys are going to join us in probably 10 minutes or something to do some activities, some games and stuff. Remember, we're going to learn some new stuff.
I want you to come back in. I'm not ready to say goodbye to you.
Oh,
In a little bit.
in a little bit.
There's an awareness, and the awareness indicates a lack of safety. Like something about this isn't right. I have to now pay attention to it. Whereas you and I might be able to block it off altogether, or not really even register it. When my daughter could verbalize it because she had a different experience, she told me that just the wind on her arm, and we have a fair amount of hair on our arms, that movement of the hair on our arm actually hurt. And I can't tell you the last time I felt wind on the hair of my arms. But I'm sure it happened all the time. So there is a part of their attention that's always going to that and always monitoring for that on some sort of internal level. Again, you've got an energy bleed, and you've got an awareness bleed there that's going to put people on edge, put them on edge. Like, don't come too close to me, you may not be okay. If you're walking past me and you've got this piece of paper and it's kind of going like this, I all of a sudden don't feel safe. Whereas you and I would just go, we wouldn't register it necessarily. Same thing with the vestibular functions as it was with River. Muscle tone, again, he droops. Neither one of them hold their trunks up. And you'll see sometimes there's a little bit of a difference, and sometimes it applies to both. I didn't write everything on both sheets. The tight pencil hold is again a muscle tone thing. I don't know how much to hold this that I can really support it. And if I release it, it's going to be too loose. Right. So I'm not going to be able to write. So as Ocean said, defining that fine motor and being able to use it at will is where we're going. Proprioception. You didn't mention anything about math for Bodhi, so I didn't write anything. Clearly, I need more information, but I think that there are areas there that need strengthening. Again, the auditory sequencing is a strength. It's fascinating how they managed to get both. How was your pregnancy? Was it easy?
Well,
hard?
they were born at 31 weeks, so my waters broke spontaneously. Other than that, it was, I mean, I definitely was. I'm a small person.
Yeah, you
I was in
are.
considerable physical discomfort.
I'll bet.
So, but there was no issues. I just, by the time my waters broke, I was, just in constant. I mean, somebody had their foot jammed up in I couldn't breathe very well.
And some of it might have been a gift to you that you had.
I definitely felt a lot better physically once my
Yeah,
waters broke, but
yeah.
not any other way.
Right, I'm sure. So, and the sound sensitivity, but he, as I said, was not distracted by the outside sounds. He stayed very present with me, and you notice I didn't mention it. Was funny.
Right.
They were very nice to me. They did their little thing, and sometimes they're gone. I don't get them at all.
Right.
But they were very nice to give it to me both times. And I didn't say a word.
And
to
in the
Bodhi.
beginning, you kind of showed River around versus not Bodhi.
I didn't
What
show
was
Bodhi
your-
around.
was
I
there
just
something
forgot.
about-
You know,
Oh,
it was
okay.
just I just missed it because
I wasn't
I-
sure if River gave you cues that. You
no,
thought
I
you needed
usually
that.
show everybody
Okay.
around, and I didn't with Bodhi, and I felt at the time I thought I'm missing something, and
Interesting.
I think it was just I'd already been
You
in here
know
with
it.
you,
I know.
and I was
Yes.
so I think you were the constant, and I just missed it. But that's significant that even though I didn't do that,
Yeah.
he still wasn't
Right,
distracted.
right,
I still didn't
right.
need to tell
Yes,
him
yes.
what was going on. So that's
Yeah.
even more interesting to me. Visual tracking was smoother than Rivers, but still it was very tiring. I don't know if you
Yeah.
noticed, after we did that stuff, he was
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
like,
Started being
just
like, we're done,
oh,
right?
Yeah, we're going now, all right?
Yeah, it was very interesting.
In the full evaluation, we do a lot before we get to the visual because
Right, you know
it's
at that
pretty,
point.
and I pick and choose after that. It's
Yeah.
kind of like, okay, I really need to get like 2 more things in after this,
Yeah,
because I need to do a fair amount of negotiation after the visual.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can't think of anybody that's ever come in here that hasn't had some visual processing because it's part of, it's so much of what we do, and it's just for it to be for it to be organized and everything else to be off is so unusual. I don't think I've ever seen that. The rivalry, I wasn't sure with him because he did see the white wall, and then it turned a little orange, so that was kind of, it's sort of separating but not quite. So again, I would need more information on that, and I think things would flesh out a little bit more as we strengthen the convergence and the divergence, which I'm going to give you stuff today for. As those get better, then the rest of it, sometimes it just corrects itself because developmentally that's how things work. Light sensitivity, he's some disturbance but not as much. He definitely had difficulty repeating the patterns. It was harder for him to do this. But he was able to write with his eyes closed just fine. So, that's the miracle of the human body. It's not a linear kind of thing. It's like a little bit here. But being erratic, he can't count on it.
Right.
It's a system he can't count on. And when you can't count on your body to regularly repeat things, then, and you said he has a more difficult time skipping. And, it's just like, what can I count on? What can I can't count on? It's the frustration level that all that would tie into. I can understand the tantrums and the screaming and the, I just can't. Not that I would enjoy them. I didn't enjoy them with my daughter either. The startle reflex is not fully integrated. There was
Did he startle when you clapped also, or?
well, you indicated it actually.
Right.
He did blink.
Right.
His startle actually, I was looking for it.
Yeah.
Because you had indicated it actually was less than Rivers.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Again, I didn't write that. I would need more information on that, just to know where the pieces were that were causing him difficulty. He too is all right-sided, from what I can tell. And then the interhemispheric integration, difficulty skipping. He did use bimanual arms with the running. but the rigidity he has, difficulty with transitions, again, the minimal midline cross. They both had it. Bodhi more than River. River actually went up higher.
Mm-hmm.
Bodhi didn't really want to cross that horizontal midline either.
Mm-hmm.
So not only did he not want to go this way, he didn't want, and I don't know, is that muscle tone, is that proprioception, is that inner hemispheric, I don't know. That's the more information piece, and again, I didn't mark that. Come on, get it. And with the attentional priorities, I just wrote it a little different here, connecting with family and the affirmation of his abilities. On his, I didn't write this on both of them.
Yes, I saw the other one.
Yeah, I just like at some point you don't need to have
I
it
didn't
written.
get the number on mine for some reason. But
Oh, I must have written it after I copied it.
Yeah.
I just met this gentleman, and he works at the Ocean Center for Integrative Medicine, Integrative Pediatrics at UCSF, and his
What did you call it? The O?
Osher, OSHER. Center for, let me look at the card rather than try to make it up. I was really impressed with him. He's actually sponsoring a workshop that we're going to do next year. It's the Ocean Center for Integrative Medicine. That's the only card I have, so I can't give it to you. But I was very impressed with him. He rarely goes just to medication for things. He works with a lot of ADHD kids, and he doesn't go right to medication. In fact, he wrote a book, ADHD Without Drugs or something like that. He's really personable. He works with specifically with kids that are on the spectrum and have ADHD. Does a lot of nutritional stuff, minerals, vitamins, testing for those kinds of things to see where they are in the system, and works. It's from what I could tell, and I met with him for. I think we met with him for about an hour and a half, which was really lovely that he gave us that time. And I was just impressed with how he really seemed to be thinking about what each family needs and what would work within their lifestyle, and not just going, okay, everybody has to go for a casein-free, gluten-free, everybody's going to be on GAPS or, whatever. He wasn't a cookie cutter kind of guy. He was a work with the family and he's an MD and he's at UCSF, and they accept pretty much all insurance. So that makes him a great referral now. I'm just like so thrilled. Like, oh, yay, I can refer to somebody that people can actually go to.
Yeah.
Because I have lots of naturopaths and whatever that I refer to, and a fabulous homeopath out in your area, and,
Who is that?
Karen Cohen. She's on Seabright, Branciforte Chiropractic. Her husband is one of the
Yeah, I think we know them.
foremost guys in craniosacral, and his name is now escaping me. Her phone number is she's been my homeopath for a long time. 831-425-1422. She's right on Water and Seabright. I just think she just gets the soul of people rather not just linear. She just gets the soul of people, and she's a mom of 3 kids, and she understands, and my kids love her, which is always an indicator. It's a real big indicator. So in fact my eldest will call her as a resource for I've got this going on. So the fact that she does that and she's out of the house is like big to me.
Yeah.
So does that kind of
Yeah, I'm just curious if these things had anything to do with us in particular, or these things you say to everyone?
No, I don't say anything to everyone.
So I'm curious why.
Because you had said that you'd tried various different things. Some had worked, some hadn't. I always think that there is a nutritional component to what's going on. And if you didn't find a difference with the gluten-free stuff, that's fine. I mean, there's people that would say, oh, you didn't try it long enough, or you didn't this, or, you know, whatever, because every autistic kid always had, you know, and I'm sure you've heard that before. I can tell by how red your face is getting. I just don't function that way. And so I think he's a good resource because he looks at each child individually, and he's covered by insurance.
Right.
Exactly. And so I feel like I can refer him to people, and if they don't find anything, they really haven't lost a lot.
Exactly. Okay, good.
And anybody that has any desire for homeopathic, I refer her because she's just amazing. Well, yeah, I refer people up here. I mean, you just don't see a classical homeopath that often. You don't have to go that often, and I just think she's incredible. So there's that. Now, let's talk about the activities, and then we'll have all the boys come back in. Ocean will be very happy. Okay, so I'm giving you 9 activities. The one that I've written in is technically not on my screening list, but I really think they'll benefit from it, so I'm going to do it. These are in alphabetical order. The papers that you have here, and you have papers on everything, are all in here. Some of how I may show you how to do it might be a little different than what's on the paperwork. Do it the way I'm showing you, because we can only write it up so many ways. This is that paper I told you I was going to have you sign that tells you that, you know, you're not going to become instant handle practitioners, and that copy all this stuff off and give it to everybody and blah, 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 blah. That's okay, don't worry about it. Just go down here. That should have been River and Bodhi, but I'll make it work. So basically, I'm saying this into the video, you're signing for everybody. You're signing for the whole team, and I'll give you a copy of this. So that
we're all just using
you're
this
just
for
all
River,
using it for them, because what happens is I could give it to you one way for them and another way for somebody else, and it can be not so pretty. The other thing that's that I want to talk about before we have them come in is gentle enhancement, and I think we talked about it on the phone, but I want to go over it. Gentle enhancement is the key to handle. I think it's the key to life, but it's just like, not that I follow it all the time, but it's a key. Stress systems don't get stronger. They begin to shut down. When we go into our sympathetic nervous system or fight or flight, we are not learning. I tell kids it's like running from a bear. When you're running from a bear, you're not worried about anything but getting away from the bear. That includes what your mother says, that includes the math lesson, that includes, eating properly. It just, none of that matters. All that matters is getting away from the bear. And these kids live in that a lot. So the goal is to, I choked up. So the goal is to strengthen these systems so that they're not running from the bear all the time.
But they won't be strengthened if they're running from the bear while you're trying to do
It's harder to do that. It's much harder.
Car keys.
We're going to have you guys come in pretty soon.
Oh, okay. I'm just going to run out and get a refresh pair of pants.
Okay, that'll be good. Better way to come in. So stop an activity if you see any of the following state changes. Change in muscle tone.
Which would look like what?
Either tightening up or flopping. So if you take them where they start, if they're here, and we get what we did with Bodhi, that'd be a good time to stop, because he's clearly had it and he's really not with you anymore. Loss of visual focus. That's what happened when River was paying attention to that and not what I was talking about. So I attended to that. That covered it, and he was back. But he was, if I hadn't, he would have gone more and more into stress, and then he wouldn't have done anything.
So, but if you experience a change and do something and it comes back, then you keep going.
Well, with what I was doing today, I only had so much time, and I was going to play with it. If you're doing a handle activity and you notice any of these state changes, you stop and start it again the next day.
Okay.
Just let it go. And wait for the calmness to come back before you do another activity, because otherwise you're just building up, unless they ask for something. Sometimes they'll ask for something. Reddening of the ears. there's a nerve that goes to the same organs that deal with, that the autonomic nervous system is connected to, that has ends in the tips of the ears. It also has an end kind of close to the rump, the anus, but that's usually not a place people want to check all the time. So, tips of the ears are a little bit more, accessible. So if they start to turn red, or you notice that they're red, there's a stress going on.
Did you notice, by the way, with either of them?
Yeah, they're on and off. They became redder or less. Change of facial color, they both do. They get redder. But that can be going very pale too. We actually didn't think my daughter had capillaries in her cheeks until after we did handle, and it was like, oh, you do. You can get some blood in there. How about that? She was just always stressed, and we just had no idea. Change in breathing, which can be breathing really hard or not breathing at all. Stopping breathing is a really, really common thing to do, and these kids tend to breathe pretty shallow anyway. That's a generalization, but a lot of people who are stressed breathe shallow, and a lot of people with low muscle tone breathe shallow, and that's a lot of people that are on the spectrum. Worsening of an activity once it's becoming integrated. So I'm going to show you a couple of games to play with them, and as you're doing it, if they're able to do it for a while and then they're not able to do it, then that's a sign that their brains have learned as much as they can learn, and then you just stop. We kind of go with the 3 misses and you stop rule. You're doing sunrise, so you'll work it into however where they've had enough. If you can stop it before that point of they've really had enough, then you'll avoid the meltdowns or the flare-ups. These are really great signs to be aware of. If you can start to catch them, then you'll be able to divert and possibly even have less of those tantrums. And then complaints of nausea, dizziness, disorientation, any other somatic concern. Anything it has to do with. And I just assume it's all real. I don't when we get to a point where I can start discerning whether it's habit or manipulation or something like that, I'm real happy. Right now it's just all real. So I've given you 3 of these because I know you have a team, and this sort of becomes your Bible. All right. So let's see. With the activities, while he's changing pants, let me see if there's any ones that I want to...
I'm wondering if you want to talk about overall how much you think we should do them, which do we do them all, kind of the context of what you're suggesting here.
A lot of sunrise families will... people do it mixed ways. Some people will include it into their sunrise time, in which case it's really up to the kid as to whether they'll move into it, because you have to sort of leave them there, and then if they go off, then you have to go off. So that's not always my favorite time, because I would really like these to get done, but you do what you do. Others will not have it be part of their sunrise time, but have it sort of be intermittent, which is my preference. I prefer to have a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit, doing all of them at one time can be stressful because we're tweaking neurological systems. So, and all of these, this whole program, if you or I were to do it, once you knew what you were doing, 5 minutes, 6 minutes.
To do all these activities would take that combined.
Yeah. So they're not, aside from whatever cajoling, resistance, whatever else you've got there, then they're really not that long. But, it's 30 seconds here, it's 30 seconds there, it's, however you do it.
So you're, in your ideal situation, you do a few of them every day. You do all of these every day, and you do them sprinkled throughout.
That's
the day.
what I would do.
But I understand we may not do that. But
you may not.
I just want to hear
ideal scene. And if you create yourself a chart, an Excel chart or something like that, and check off. Say you get 3 in one day, try to get the next 3 in the next day. So every 2 or 3 days, you get all of them in. That's kind of how there's my ideal scene, and then there's reality. And I go with reality.
Yeah.
But it's a good question.
And you want, I missed everything.
I know, but it's all on there.
But just in case
I'm
you didn't
so
answer this
articulate.
already,
No, please.
do you want them fully present for the activities? Like,
Right now? Or
no,
in
when you're
general?
doing these things. Like, you wouldn't do it while they're watching a video or while they're sleeping, right?
Actually, some people do some of these. Well, a lot of these involve movement, so it would be a little hard for them to be done
Asleep.
when they're yeah. There's 2 of them you might be able to do when they're asleep, and that's fine with me. They can be watching a video. Well, that's the only way you can get them done. Then I would say yes. Is it optimal? No. But does it have to be a big, heavy deal? No. And nothing has to be done for, longer than 10, 20, 30 seconds either. So it's not like you have to, get them. Okay, we're going to do this.
Right.
So what I think is probably better is why we've got a little bit of a reprieve is that I can teach you a few of them that are a little bit more instruction oriented, and then we'll play it by ear. And if we lose them, we'll lose them, and I'll teach you the rest of them.
Yeah.
Okay? Does that sound like a plan?
Yeah.
All right. So as I explained, you're going to get this, and there's paperwork here. They explain the benefits. Do it the way I'm telling you to do it, the way it says on the video. If it contradicts with this, do it my way. Just because I'm changing it. Different colors okay?
Yeah.
These okay colors? These are important.
Do they
us.
want them?
Bodhi will
Do
be
they
blue.
want them to have their own? Oh,
Yes, I want
Okay.
them to have their own. They're going to share a ball.
Okay.
Unless you think that's a bad idea, I can give you each a ball,
No,
but
it's okay.
they're going to share a ball. But each having their own. This is the easiest, quote unquote, activity on the planet, except it's not easy all the time. All they do is stick and I'll give them water and show them how to do it. All they're going to do is stick the straw in the water, put the straw in the middle of their mouth. Is this on the video? Am I straight in?
Yeah.
Close their eyes and drink.
Yeah. Oh, actually, you can't totally see that.
That's all we're doing. Okay? If they won't close their eyes, which both of them were willing to do, but if they won't, then they can look down here at this little twirl or whatever, or at the bottom of the cup. I want them to look close, because what's happening here is they're strengthening 2 things. They're strengthening the convergence, and they're also
Even if their eyes are closed.
especially if their eyes are closed. If you put your pinky in your mouth and you close your eyes and suck like you're going to get water out of it, close your eyes. Ocean won't close eyes. Boys will close their eyes. What did you feel happening to your
I
eyes?
can feel it kind of drawing.
Yeah. That's what happens when they nurse. Is they pull it up. Do they both nurse?
For a very long time.
Yeah, and what I find with kids that will nurse for a really long time is that they're wanting to get this thing that they haven't gotten.
Yeah.
Often they won't close their eyes unless they're falling asleep. Kids who have poor proprioception or sense of where they are in space will often not close their eyes, and then they don't get as much of this piece. So the other thing it does is that since this is a round muscle, when you make a circle here with a shock, it strengthens all the round muscles in the body, which include all sphincter muscles. So there's your constipation and bowel and bladder control. Okay, as well as digestion and breathing and
And is
muscle.
this kind of thing? Is it? Would you only? Is this something we should just try to have a lot of times when they're drinking throughout the day? Then do
I
this? Or no,
prefer
you
water.
Just,
One, because the body needs water, but also because other things
so
get gunked
gunky.
up in there. But you can find these at party stores. They won't look exactly like this. If they insist upon drinking other things with it, I would just go with flow.
No, I was more wondering just if
About 11 ounces. They're going to be 11 in January. So about 10 ounces a day divided up.
Right. But my question is the more they drink through this straw with their eyes closed, the better? Or you just want it once a day for 10 seconds and you don't want us to be encouraging them to use this straw?
I'd like
closed
about
all the
10
time?
ounces a day.
Of drinking.
10
of
ounces?
this
Drinking.
Not
About
10
10
seconds.
ounces. Right. About 10 ounces a day
through the straw.
through the straw. Divided up into bits. So a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there. That's ideal scene.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's reality, and you get what you
Right.
get.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Might be 3 ounces, might be 2 ounces, it might be nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
If this doesn't work, because this takes a bit to suck up through these,
Mm-hmm.
you can do 2 different things. You can try, if they like smoothies, you can use a regular straw with smoothies, just in the center of the mouth, and close your eyes, their eyes. Not your eyes, doesn't matter if your eyes are closed. A little symbiotic here, but you can use thin straws, you know, not quite Swizzler sticks, but they make thin straws, and just drink liquid out of that, because that takes a little bit more of a pull. Depends on their muscle tone, and we'll find out.
So would you rather them drink less out of these or more out of some of these other options?
The other options are if this is too hard for them.
Right.
If they can
But it might be too hard. They might in other words, 10 ounces might too much with that, but they do.
Combine is fine. I don't have a rule, especially not at this point. Again, I'm going for buy-in and cooperation at this point. So we'll see how they do with that. That's crazy straw. Earmuffs is going to be just making cups with their hands and putting them over their ears. That's different than doing this. It's just cups, but we want no air coming. So it's not like that. It's like this. And usually doing what you're doing, you know, propping yourself on the table is helpful. And then at some point, you can feel sort of a warmth coming over.
Eyes open or closed?
Doesn't matter. There
And,
it is.
and
Do you feel
you're
the calm?
wanting not us to put our hands
You
over
can.
your ears,
You can.
but you're
Doesn't
wanting
matter.
ideally, you don't care if it's
Doesn't
their
matter.
hands or our hands.
Oh, anyone's hands.
Anybody's hands.
Okay.
Anybody's hands.
And
You just
any
want to have it a
position,
close.
They could be
Yeah,
sitting,
they
lying,
can be
standing.
anywhere. Then, yeah.
And
If
how
they're
is that
doing
different-
it,
how is
then
that different than closed hand? I mean, than
we'll do
flat
the
hand.
do
Yeah,
the
just
two
do-
different.
You're
Put
not
your hand
squishing
there.
your ears, and you're
If
just
you're
creating
squishing
a
your
little
ears,
cave for
listen
your
to
ears.
listen to me. You can hear me like that, but now my voice is all distorted.
Right.
So you just want to make sure. Do it again. Do it again. See, make a cup. So you just want to make sure it's closed. So you've got air coming in here. You want to make sure that's closed, so that it's a closed system in there.
Yeah.
That's right. It has a different experience. And then what happens is it warms the nerves and it warms the fluid, and it helps with auditory processing, and it helps with calming. It's a great, I mean, you could even, just as we were talking about it and you were thinking about it, it still brings the energy into a calmer place. Blowing to targets, you do not have a sheet of paper on that because I adjusted something.
I know Deo's been doing blow soccer with them.
And how have they been
From
doing
your
with
thing.
that?
Fine, good. It's just I think I don't think she sees it as something they would necessarily do every day. It's kind of like a fun activity or game she can bring in now and then, like, oh, now we'll do blow soccer again today. So I think she was looking for maybe other ways to do other.
Yeah, what I would rather we do is just something called blow to targets, which is a similar idea, but they can get as creative as they like with the targets, but they will put out a target and then they blow the cotton ball to it, but I want them to watch it go because we're working on divergence. So the key is them watching.
Watching while they're blowing.
So it's keep your eye on the ball. There you go, just like that. There you go. Okay, and obviously we're strengthening muscle tone here. We're also, the modulation. If you put the target out further, you have to blow it harder, and then eventually you can change what you're doing here. You can roll up tin foil and blow that. You can you blow beads. You can find different things that you can blow. That feathers. Pardon me. Take different amount of blow.
And is there an ideal distance that we're talking?
Different
here?
distances would be good.
Doing different ones at
Yeah,
different times.
not too close
And
because we're
how-
dealing with the close with this.
And how spending.
Oh, I don't know,
10
3-4
seconds.
times. Yeah,
Okay.
something like that. 2-3 times, whatever they'll do.
I guess one of my questions is, one of the easiest ways for me to imagine some of these activities is in a playful, family, competitive, way. Like, we're gonna have our drinking contest and we're all doing it and we all have straws and
That's
we're
fine.
all.
I don't have any more straws, so I'm just
We'll have
ordered
to
them
get
more,
our
so you'll have to
own.
get your own.
Or we're blowing and we're. But I guess it's but the whole gentle enhancement thing, how to kind of have somebody watching, making sure, and if you're a little bit competitive, I imagine you would get flushed or you know what I mean? So.
Can you shift that to be where each person takes a turn and everybody watches that person, or two people go when like a parent and a child go at the same time?
Right.
So there's always a parent that's watching.
And that's why are we watching?
Wait, you missed the gentle enhancement part.
Right. Gentle enhancement's really the key to everything we do in Handle. So if we see any of these state changes, any of these things happening, then we want to stop the activity. Because stress systems don't get stronger, they shut down. So we need to be really aware of when they start to happen, because if you stop when they just start to happen, then you circumvent the tantrum and the losing it and the pain that goes on inside. So face tapping and skull tapping are the two that you could probably do when they're asleep if you needed to, if they don't like them. I don't know how they're going to do with them, but let me teach them to you so that you can both do them, and then you can each take a kid when they come in here. We can see how this goes.
Okay.
So to do face tapping, and I'll show you what it does in a minute, but let me teach it to you. You're going to take 2 fingers on each hand and do alternating tapping, right? And I think face tapping is on the website. I don't know if skull tapping is. So you're going to start here at your temples, and using that alternating tapping, you're going to go across the eyebrows, and then up to the hairline, and then back down in sort of an inverted T. Make sure you're doing alternating. And back to where we started, which we'll call home base. There you go. And then under the eyes, down the nose. That's a sensitive spot sometimes, so sinuses are, and then back to home base. Sinuses are clogged, you go softer there. Down the cheeks to the mustache line. We'll organize you too, Ocean. And back to home base. Down the jawline to under the lower lip. And back up to home base. And then right behind the ear on the bone, just like where you'd wear glasses, to the thick part at the bottom, and then back up. How did that feel?
Interesting.
I mean, you're thinking about it.
I was
as you're
trying to
doing
think
it.
about getting my alternating.
Yeah, no, that was a struggle for you. How did that feel for you?
Good.
Okay. A lot of times it's calming. What you're doing is you're calming this nerve, which is the trigeminal nerve, which goes to all the organs of the face and to every tooth and tongue. So having that impulse organized and calm then gives a more calm, organized information to the brain. One of the places it goes in the brain is the sensory motor cortex. And the sensory motor cortex gets 50% of its information from the face. So that's a lot of information for one cortex. If that's organized, there's going to be much more organization going to the sensory and motor cortex. To strengthen that cortex, we do skull tapping. I'm not being rude, I'm just turning around so this is in the camera. You're going to start this one at center line, right at the where the skull comes to the neck, and coming straight up the midline, right in the center. You're going to come up to hairline. You want to use 2 fingers, so you're getting little baby steps, and then you're going to go all the way back down. You take your hands off, come to the top of the head, and bring your thumbs down to the tips of the ears so you know you've got a straight line, because that's where the cortexes are. If you're too far, you're going to miss them. And then you're going to tap straight down to the tips of the ears and back up. And then take your hands off and repeat tapping on the corpus callosum.
And face tapping and skull tapping are in the...
Yes, and you have the pathways on both of them. There's pictures of them, and I'll walk you through it here, but you have tagged. I just think it's easier for me to explain it to you now before they come in.
And do you have any suggestions? I know that was one of the ones Deo particularly has been wanting to do the face tapping, but not quite sure how to introduce it in a playful way or in a game or a context of And just wondering if you have any.
Yeah. No, I don't. I'm trying to think of how I do it in here. And I just pretty much launch into it. I just kind of say, this is something that just helps all the parts, all the things on your face to be calmer. You know, and I'm really okay if they say that doesn't feel good or I don't want that, because you can do it to yourself then.
Right, in their presence.
In their presence, and that's mental rehearsal, and they'll still get it. So as long as you know how to do it and you can do it, then it's really okay with me. So I start with, again, with my ideal scene, and then I go to reality. And you can do this in their sleep if they sleep hard enough. The getting back here part is a little bit hard, but...
And the amount of it that we just did, that's the amount.
Yeah, it's one time a day. Unless they love it and they want more. You know, that's okay. The last...
I think they're about to...
Yeah, the last few, I think I'm going to start with the last few because you know these. And they're more game-like, the last three. This one, 2-finger spinal massage, is a calmer. And that's the one I'm sort of adding in that I'm not technically supposed to add in. If this is their spine, you take 2 fingers starting at the top. Come on in, guys. And you're going to come down to the bottom of the spine and then back up 3 times.
We're about ready for you guys. Come on in.
What are you doing?
Come on in, Mr. River.
I am showing your mom and dad an activity called 2-finger spinal massage. And its whole purpose is when people...
Do clothes? I mean, does that matter?
Yeah, will you do it to me just so I can feel it?
So that when you start to feel tense or upset, this can often calm you down. So turn your body a little bit so the boys can see you. So you start right here, and you come down the body to the bottom, and then back up.
And you
Like
keep
that.
something, it was just holding
I'm just holding your
Very
shirt down.
slowly.
Sometimes people do this without clothes, and then you don't have to hold anything down. In my house, there was a long time that people would come up to each other and think, I think you need 2-finger spinal massage.
Ooh, let's see.
How's that feel?
Everyone wants to try it too.
Oh, good.
Okay, so does the back need to be straight?
No, you just need to be on either side of the spine.
Okay.
He can sit the
Follow
other.
this line wherever it goes.
Michelle,
Yeah.
you can sit the other chair.
You'd like to have
We
your
can bring the other.
And then on the way up, do the fingers come this
Any
way?
which way that works for you.
Okay.
Sometimes it just goes straight up.
Great.
Sometimes I turn it around. You're in front of the camera if you care.
I'm in front of the camera.
She's
Dea really wanted to be here, so she wants to learn everything that we're learning.
Okay.
okay.
So I'm going to
How did
turn
that
this.
feel? You probably want that on because
Oh,
we're
I'm just going to start a fresh tape of the
Yeah.
demonstration.